You're being recorded, Rick.
All right, as usual, let's start with bucket fills and something good. Who wants to start?
Oh, yeah, I'm feeling the island still, guys.
I was like, I saw this. She's still on vacation. Mentally.
Where did you go?
I was in Jamaica.
Oh.
Yeah, fun.
Come on.
Come on.
Very good.
Where?
Every time you
Where?
ask her a
Montego
question
Bay?
for the next 2 weeks, that's what it's gonna be. Yum on.
You need that, yeah, you got it.
She
No
didn't do
problem.
girl.
No problem.
No problem.
Girl thing.
All right, what else? Candy's still mentally on vacation.
So vacations are good.
Vacations are fun.
I thought it was
What else we got?
There is.
Chris.
I had a really great closing last week.
Congratulations on that
It's
one.
like somehow it's like public now, and I'm getting like all these spam emails to be in magazines. So
You're like, oh, that's how this works. He was like,
Elite.
yeah, oh.
Elite.
Oh. What else? What else is good?
I'll bucket fill Derek for giving me the opportunity to do my first open house.
Hey, that's awesome.
That's a great
Super
thing.
awesome. All right, two more good things. Derek, you just got a bucket fill, by the way.
Oh, I did?
You did.
Great. You know, I
I
until Candy's done.
Brittany on our team passed her state and national exams. Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice.
I'll fill Kimberly Reeves' bucket for hosting an open house on Sunday.
Okay.
Listing in Edina, and took it on head on and didn't buck with the weather nastiness we were dealing with. So that was awesome. Thanks, Kimberly.
How was the traffic there? I'm curious because
We
I
had 9 groups through.
oh
For a snowstorm. For a snowstorm. That's good.
Yeah.
So buyers that want to buy are out there wanting to look at houses.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I'll fill Kevin's bucket. Kevin had asked me for some recommendations for Miami, and I gave him a list or this thing that I had written up for somebody else, a 4-day week in Miami, and he went and experienced our neighborhood in Miami last night, how we experience it, and I'm just grateful that he did. I think he
Awesome.
had a great time.
Super cool. What else? What else is good?
I'll bucket fill the leadership team because I totally unplugged and knew everything was taken care of, and you guys are awesome. So thank you.
We're so glad you're back. We're so glad. All right. Moving on to some trainings. So, Kelly, do you want to talk a little bit about this class? This is right afterwards, correct?
Yeah,
Right after the team meeting. So tell us a little bit about this.
yes, we're gonna go step by step on how to use chat, GPT and Canva to make 10, 15, 30, however many social media posts that you want. We're
Awesome.
just gonna go step by step.
Awesome.
And we'll also show you how to get into KWLS. Although I did learn yesterday or one of these days, there's been so many Keller Williams trainings in the last week and a half. One of them said that we may not be able to post missions via KWLS, which is kind of news to me because that's how it feeds on the website. So I will show you how to do it if we are allowed to do it.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not here to say if we can or can't, but I'll show you how.
She pleads the fifth.
Yeah.
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah.
goodness.
Awesome. And that's right after the team meeting today.
Yeah.
Office will be closed this Friday for Good Friday, so just, we always want to tell you that, so in case you have listings coming on, the leadership team will obviously be out. You will have access to the office still. If something is an absolute emergency, always feel free to reach out to Heather or myself, and I'm actually not going to be here, so you will be reaching out to Heather. So-
That's me.
We are open Monday though, right?
Yes. Here's our April training calendar. So, we have Ask the Appraisal on Tuesday right away, after, I guess when you weren't talking about being Monday. So Tuesday the 2nd, we have our team meetings, and their social media class playbook is on Thursday. We've got a lot of CE credits in here too. So the 9th, we have CE
Oh.
credits, and that's here, correct, Candy? We have, real estate offer magic on the 11th. We have, mega agent interview on the 16th in Edina. I am actually doing gaining momentum, with one transaction on the 18th, which will be here. And then we have Bethany Nelson group call night on that same night. Contracts class with Kevin on the 23rd. Collective team meeting on the 24th, and Leadership Academy with Jake on the 25th. And then a buyer presentation class with Rachel on the 30th. Do you guys have any questions around any of these trainings? Again, if you go click on them, you can get right into, I guess it's a Google sheet now to be able to register for them. Do you guys have questions around that at all?
Is the buyer's contract with Kevin the same one that was offered?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, that's just gonna be a monthly, especially as new agents are coming in. But it's always worth it to go a few different times because you might pick up different things in that class that you didn't, the first time. All right, social media playbook class. This was the one that was, Thursday, the 4th. She's great at this, by the way, just in regards to how to really get in there and have an ROI on it. I think a lot of us put stuff out on social media and might not know exactly how to either hashtag, where to put it, how to make it most effective. So this is going to give you an actual play-by-play, and you're going to have a physical playbook to go by, as well as some different timing, I believe, almost like a calendar for those social media posts. So definitely one to go to 11 to 12 on Thursday, the 4th. Do you want to speak to the CEs a little bit, Candy?
Sure.
So we're trying to get CEs at least 2 to 3 each month. So this is for April, and then we're trying to get some in on May too. Again, just to kind of be helpful in regards to not doing them all in June, like a lot of us do.
So these are going to be in person only, so be sure to register so that you have a space in this room. But so Cinch is going to do a home warranty class, a deep dive into what that is. It's actually over more than what fit on the screen, so that's just like a little blurb about it. Then Cinch is also sponsoring the lunch from noon to 1, so that you can stay and do the afternoon class then with Structure Tech, who is doing a class for 2 CEs from 1 to 3. So in that day, you can get 3 CEs and lunch. So come and knock out a bunch.
Awesome. Any questions around CE? Who's done with their CE already?
Nope.
Wow, there's like 4 or 5 people.
That's-
Nice. Yeah.
What's the trick?
Who had no idea?
What do you mean? What's
That-
they did,
Is this a 15-hour or a 30-hour?
they offered all the classes on.
I didn't think you could start at till the middle of May.
Yeah, that's why.
I've never been done this.
Do all the Heartland ones.
That's how your calendar works. All right, moving on.
Office, just.
Okay, so we had been on a call on Monday just with International, and this was sent out, and I think we can obviously send this to you, and you guys might have gotten a copy of some of this too, of just simplifying what's happening with the settlement right now. I know we talked about this a little bit in the collective meeting last week. So I wanted to be able to open it up in here now that there's a little bit more people, obviously, because that was in Edina. What kind of concerns you have? Because this lays it out really, really well in regards to what is actually being done in the lawsuit versus the things that social media and the media are portraying, right? Which I think is putting a little bit of panic, not just into the agents, but also obviously the conversations are coming up with clients right now, in various different ways. So, going through this, it's one where some of this is what we should have been doing as best practice previously, and may or may not have been doing. Things like we should be having a buyer representation sign before showing a home. That doesn't change for us. That was always something that we were supposed to do, right, in Minnesota prior to actually showing homes. Completely transparent, how many people did that with all of their buyers? Okay, so that's where this is a different conversation, but the good thing about this actually is now, instead of them feeling hesitant to say, hey, we got to go into this contract, now you have to, right? So when you're in your buyer consult, it's not like a let's think about it and then you like leave it until you put an offer in. You actually have to be in contract with them. So those are things that aren't necessarily changing. It's just they're, saying this is not an optional situation. In regards to compensation, you no longer can put that on the MLS. And that's actually does not start until July, right? Because there's no stamp on it by anybody. So in regards to what do you have to do right now you have to be really great agents and you have to take a look at your business in regards to what are things that you can do to make sure you're bringing more value in and then make sure that you're getting contracts signed. So again, this does not happen or is not projected to happen until July at some point in time. And then it goes into that sellers can still offer concessions to buyers on the MLS. So that's not an actual commission, but like always, we've had concessions on there, right? The seller can offer, seller pays to X amount and you can actually put that on there. That's something that can still be done as of right now and maybe start getting into the habit of looking at that and knowing where that's at on the contracts as well. Because I did get some questions lately from people that said, how do we talk about commissions in regards to 6%, 2.5%, 7%, whatever your commission is? If you've done a listing and you read through that listing paperwork, we are already talking about those things because it shows that in the listing agreement, right? Maybe we just kind of buzz through that sometimes. So I highly suggest, once again, reading through that kind of word by word and seeing what's in the actual listing agreement.
So if
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, if I'm understanding that right, so if I'm selling a $500,000 house, I'm roughly getting $15,000 in buyer broker comp fee that I'm paying out.
Yep.
So I can put $15,000 in seller concessions on MLS.
You can put, and I don't know if Kevin's on here. I guess it depends. I mean, because it's 3% would be that anyways. If you're thinking of it as they can.
3%, yeah.
Yep, that's
Buyer broker comp, so I
Yep.
have 15,000 paying out.
Yep.
I can list the $15,000 dollar amount.
from my knowledge. Yes, you can put concession that amount of.
Here's your
concession.
hiccup, if I bring my seller in there and beat the hell out of you and get the price down to 450, now you still gotta pay me the
Good luck,
15 Gs.
Chuck.
Good luck. Well, but part of that is
Right, that would be the hiccup.
that's a negotiable thing, right?
So if you got $500 listed and you're gonna pay me 15 grand, but what if I beat you up to 450? Then you still have on there, you pay me 15 grand.
We'll save you the commission.
Well, anything on the MLS is negotiable.
Right, 0.7 of the 450.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But that's not necessarily true, right? Because like a price point, when you list on the price point of a house, right, it's listed at 500 and you can negotiate to 450.
Right, you can negotiate
You can
both.
negotiate on those concessions, right?
Yeah, so you
So-
just remember to
So
negotiate.
that's not saying it's on there, that's what you have to do. It
Right.
says that it can be offered, right? So everything, anything is listed is negotiable. And that's where I think your mindset has to be is everything is
Good point.
negotiable.
Or you could say up to 15.
Correct. Yep, everything is
There you go,
negotiable.
love it. And I put it in pesos too.
I just got Bob.
Okay, so.
So really, when you think about it that way, nothing's really changed.
No.
No,
No.
nothing's changed.
I mean, I think that again, it's really just taking a look at and we're gonna go into that, because I'm gonna ask who all watched the training yesterday. Do we have any questions around this portion of it? Does this make it seem, like when you look at this, I mean, it's a pretty simplified version, but that's really what's going on. Questions, comments, concerns? Derek?
So there is no longer going to be a field in MLS that is, that's showing buyer agent payout.
Supposedly after July, I'm guessing they will take that out. It is still there now. So I don't know nobody knows what that's gonna look like after July.
And also with that on MLS, when you're right now doing a listing, before, if you didn't put the buyer broker comp in there, it wouldn't let you save the listing as active. Now it does. So be very careful because I have missed it and people have been like, hey, did the law already change? So just be careful. Remember to put it in there now.
So the people that are doing their own listings, you want to make sure you fill in that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That buyer broker.
And also be very careful about people that are gonna write a contract in June. It closes in July or August, and maybe just add it into your PA to the brokerage pay 0.7%.
I agree. Anything else on that?
And as of right now, you can advertise the commission in other places, just not on MLS.
Correct.
So you could put it on your own. I don't know if Keller Williams is gonna do this or not, but we use a different CRM and that CRM is working to make it a field where that can be advertised. You can also, like, if you are on the DeRozier Realty Group, if you're on their email list.
Oh, yeah.
Every new listing they send out, they've been doing this already, but they put the payout in the subject line of their new listings, so we'll be doing that as well when we send out listings. As of now, that's okay.
The other portion that Shane brought up to maybe it was yesterday, is that when someone goes into showing time, they get sent a message every time with the code, what the instructions are, that is a place that is not the MLS. Showing time is a very separate entity, that you can say that you were gonna, whatever cooperative commission you guys would want to agree upon, whatever that may be, is a place that think about as well.
One on that note, one, in the Value Squared training yesterday, they brought up that they might not be able to do that, like on all the public platforms that are getting a feed from MLS.
That's true. And I'm like, again, we don't know what it's gonna look like in July. Right now, I would, you go about your normal business the way that it is. Obviously, there's gonna be conversations between agents. And I think the bottom line is having communication with the other agent at every point in time, whether or not you're a buyer's agent, you're a listing agent, a buyer's agent. I think over time, you've lost the communication between those agents. We all know that offers all of a sudden get sent and you're like, where'd this come from, right? Communicate with each other, talk about it. That's the biggest thing. And that can prep you for whatever's gonna happen in July. Again, there's a lot of things that aren't actually changing besides, buttoning up the business practices. Did you have something in the back?
Yeah, so what you're saying is like, different sites like 400 Doors or the information agent fed, where you're putting up buyer needs or seller needs, as long as they're under contract, you can advertise your compensation there. It's agent fed, it's not.
From what I know, you can, right? From this, it's the multiple listing service that this is where it cannot be put out. Any other questions? More detailed questions would refer to our broker, but, this is a generalized, that I can help him figure out what he needs to help you with.
What about a conversation that you would have with the seller if I'm doing a listing agreement and I tell them its commission is 6%? You have a conversation with them at that time about what the buyer's broker is gonna get?
Well, I mean, like even before this, we always, talked about what the cooperative commission was paid out, right? And it can be part of your practice, that this is what I have determined to be the fee, whether or not it's 3%, 2.7%. That's a conversation. They should know where that's going. But, I mean, you're doing that now, even in the listing presentation, right? When it's actually in there, it's in the listing agreement too, what's going where.
I would also just make sure it's itemized on your net sheet. I think that really helps people differentiate between.
You mean between buyer and seller?
And then also, my understanding is if the buyer chooses not to, if they don't want to sign a representation agreement prior to showing them a home, the one-time showing agreement can still be used. You just need to specify all those same things.
The market center could update the one that's in transaction desk. So,
In that sheet?
yeah, that'd be great.
We're gonna note that.
Maybe the MLS should just. finally
We're gonna note that one.
Maybe MLS should just start finally requiring that all buyers have some sort of representation to see a house that's on the MLS. How hard would that be?
You can't make anyone have representation for anything, right? Like, I mean, you can go into a court of law and not be represented. You can't
do a
make
one-time-
anyone do that.
But
You can do one time. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay, so they've got to have, I just been in security and safety and everything. I don't understand why we haven't got a point where buyers have to be registered. We have to have seen that they're who they say they are before they get their house.
I think that Dave's talking.
I think the other part is, who all watched Value Squared yesterday? That was by far one of the best trainings that I have been to in a long time. I was talking to the PC group this morning, just in regards to, one, it's getting back to basics, right? It truly is. When Gary, pulls out like this thing that looks like this, that's bound by whatever, and he's like, this is where we found our listings, right? There was no MLS that even had compensation on it, right? You literally looked up a listing in a book that was printed out whatever day, I don't know, because I wasn't in the business then, but like on a Monday, right? All the active listings, and you had to go through it in a catalog. And it was incredibly, refreshing to be like, how different the industry has been from successful agents in the 80s to now, right? It's just that, like anybody, we have everything at our fingertips as agents. Everything, right? We can look something up in a minute. And that's where sometimes in that particular class, it talks about what is your value, right? At one point, Gary kind of made fun of the agents that are like, well, I'm not going to the inspection. I don't need to talk to the inspector. That's what the inspector does. Well, I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. And he's like, what are you doing? You truly are just opening up a door. And I think we've gotten as agents so busy that sometimes it's like, we don't even think about what that person's going through, right? This is a huge moment in their life, no matter what move it is, no matter if it's an investment or not, right? I think it's perfect timing, and I'll share a story, which is maybe on a completely different aspect, but he had said about, I don't remember the quote, it was, so I had Heather go grab this, but it was, the value is the heart of all businesses because all businesses are an exchange of value, right? Recently, you guys know that my dog had passed away. We had to put her to sleep. And you go into this business, there's not a lot of emergency rooms, right? So you take your dog to this emergency room and everything happens super fast. So I have the kids in there and I'm saying that, what are we doing? We're going to say goodbye to our dog, right? Super emotional. So many emotions. And we walked into that ER, right, that we had dropped her off at 2 days prior. And the woman goes, are you here for pickup? Immediately, the kids just started bawling. Immediately, right? And I said, no, we're not. We're actually here to say goodbye to our dog, right? They take you back. We go into the room. And woman comes in, she's like, we need to talk about finances before we bring Maisie out. This is what it's going to cost. Again, I've got all my kids in there, right? And I say, hey, can we do this outside? Took 45 minutes for them to bring our dog into that room, right? And the point of this story is not about how sad that situation is, but for me, that was the biggest moment of my life that day in that moment. That's a memory that I can't erase, right, for the kids. Like, that's what they remember is walking in. My daughter's like, I hate this woman. Literally, that's what she said. I hate this woman. There's nothing wrong with that woman, right? And it made me think after that, after I was absolutely irate, I was like, man, we do this all the time in real estate. It's another house, it's a closing. And it is something that we go through every single day, but they don't. And they remember it from the beginning to the end, right? Do we realize what we're giving them as an experience and what value we bring? Do I think that this particular place brings value and what they did for my dog was amazing? Absolutely. But the customer service and the systems that they have in place are absolutely something they have to do. So if we thought about every single business that we walk into, no matter what it is, like, think about what that client's going through and what value you're bringing them. And I think it's a huge opportunity for us. Just like, am I not going to go back to that clinic again? No. The new puppy broke its leg. I went right back there, right? But the difference is I actually called them to give them feedback of how their systems have to be improved, because I hope no one else feels that. But there's a need there. There's a necessity there. but it can be better to make the experience better for every single person. Would you guys agree? So when you think about your daily business, when you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, I gotta lead generate, and then I got this, and I got this, and I got this, that client's waking up and it's like, I got my inspection for my new house today. That's their feeling, right? So put ourselves in their situation, and that class yesterday was exactly that. What are you doing each day for the people that you're serving? And I think when I ask people, why are you in this business? It's to serve people, to help people. I'm gonna call BS on that if you're not doing the things that I'm talking about right now, right? Because that's not what it's about then. And I know we're all human, right? And we lose touch. We lose touch, we get busy, we get annoyed, all of the things, but we have to go back to why are you in this and what value are you bringing to each individual?
I know we're all like-minded here, but when we bought our first house almost 30 years ago, my wife and kids can still tell you today everything that realtor did wrong. So if we look at it from the standpoint of it's a milestone in their life, or someone told me about my dogs. It's just another day in my life for me and my dog, but it's more important to my dog that I see them every day and do things every day. Let's apply that to real estate.
Yeah.
It's just another buy or sell or to some people, but really in their life, we are leading them step by step through some major thing in their life, a big change, money, financially, commitment, whatever, or reduction that's meaningful. And we matter, whether we matter more, I think, than people realize.
Well, and that's a great point, right? Is that they do need someone in this time period, and they're choosing you, right? They're choosing you to be that representation, the knowledge base, the one that is there to show empathy, the one that they can trust. They're choosing you. Are we choosing to show up every single day for them the way that they deserve and the way that we do get compensated? I think sometimes some of us can question that, right? And I think that's where the fear and the panic is coming from, is because we're all questioning that piece. Are we doing everything we can for our clients that validates this amount of money? In most scenarios, I'm going to say, yeah, you do. In other scenarios, I'm going to say, man, maybe not, right? And that's the point to reflect on right now. And things like Value Squared, I'm like, it was a super long training, and I can't tell you how many notes and how excited. I mean, I was texting Heather legitimately the entire training. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love Gary. This is so great. And Heather's like, yeah, okay, Gamey, yeah. You know,
Gary too.
but like, there are so many things that just got ticking in my brain that there are just like different gaps, right? And part of my job and the leadership's job right now is to help fill those gaps. I mean, in the first 35 minutes talking about the trust circle, I've heard this so many times in so many trainings. And it's like, yeah, okay, great, the trust circle. But what came to mind is when he said, have you ever thought about taking that to an appointment, right? So you take that, that's part of your buyer's appointment or your seller's appointment. You draw that trust circle, or it's already in there, and there are blanks. There's blanks under empathy, blanks under competency, blanks under transparency, blanks under dependency. And you ask that client in that moment, right? What's this mean to you? What does this look like to you? How am I able to show you, what do you want empathy to look like for you in this transaction, in this relationship? Do you think if you could create that story with them, it would feel a lot different as you go step by step in that transaction? Because we go right in, what's your wants and your needs and what this. How do we bond first? Every single time I've ever been in a listing appointment or buyer's appointment, what is the one thing people say? Trust. Trust is the most important thing to me. What does that look like? Because I think that means something different to every single person. Right? Use those 4 things. That's the first sheet of your listing presentation. These are the 4 aspects that go into trust. What's it look like for you and me to be in a relationship together? Who does that? Who does that in their listing presentation or buyer presentation? Who thinks that would be helpful to gaining a very solid relationship with someone? Yeah? I mean, those are the pieces that you can get out of those trainings, right? We've heard it all before, and that's the point of me saying that. I've heard this trust circle so like a lot. Never thought about how I could apply it in a very interactive way in my presentation. I think about the KPA, and that's a Keller personality assessment for anyone that's never taken that. And I was helping a particular agent interview someone that has been in the corporate world for a really long time. And I got a really nice email from this woman that said, man, she was the VP in some different areas, right? Or different companies. I've never been interviewed like that. And nobody's never done that type of deep dive into who I am and how I work and make decisions. Corporate, multiple companies. So the tools that we have here work. They work because we talk about relationships, getting to know people, getting to the point of helping people, right? We're not transactional. If you focus on these things that we're talking about right now, that's details. That's details on how we actually run the business. That's details on how we fill out the paperwork. That's details on conversations that we have with other agents. But what's most important is your job here is to serve the client. Let's do that better. Who's in for that? What ahas for those of you that listened to Value Squared yesterday do you guys have? I mean, literally, I took pages of notes. Like there were so many good things. So many good things. Anybody want to share? If not, I'll share all my ideas.
When I and Billy and I were talking about it this morning, I can't remember exactly what they were, but there was the one point where they were talking about like the buyers and this whole, representing the buyers and the buyers and they're going to pay and how compensation works and all that kind of stuff. The one thing that I like that they had eight reasons, something like 8 reasons to pay a buyer's broker or the buyer's agent, or 8 reasons why the buyer's agent makes their money. And it kind of detailed exactly kind of the role, what the buyer's agent does and exactly the work kind of like behind the scenes and kind of showing the value and their worth. So when you're sitting down at a listing agreement, or even with as a buyer, sitting down with a buyer, this is exactly what we're doing for you and this is where the compensation is from and how it works. But if you're sitting down with a seller and they're kind of going, well, I don't know if I want to pay I don't want to pay the buyer's broker, I don't want to pay them X number of dollars or whatever percentage. Okay, well, these are the reasons, this is what they do. This is why I would suggest, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and it was interesting too, because I didn't realize that, I mean, every state is different with what they require of an agent or to become an agent, right? In Texas, you actually have to get fingerprinted and besides a background check, right? So I'm like, number one, you're allowing someone into your home, right? So number one is security. You're just gonna randomly have people just coming into your home that have never, I mean, in an open house, right? That's our number one thing is, where is everyone? Making sure that everything is secure, correct? But there was a whole list. There was 13 reasons why you would want to work with a buyer's agent as a seller. If there's nothing else you took from that particular class in the 3 hours, absolutely print that out. And here you go. When they say, well, I don't want to pay them, awesome. Do we want to just review these, right? Because these are the reasons I would suggest that. And there's probably a ton more. I mean, we talked about this as the ALC last week. I'm like, why would someone want a buyer's agent on the other side? I know selfishly as an agent why I would, right? But also part of that goes into how the transaction actually comes out in the end for the seller as well. all of those slides were actually, published, correct?
We have them.
So all of those slides are published, and the other piece of that, I mean, along that note is the things in regards to value that was an aha for me, and we talked about this morning as well, is one simple thing, and maybe it's not simple, but I think it's simple as soon as we make it, right? As soon as we actually produce this thing, was a homeowner's manual. How many times as an agent do we do a 36 touch or whatever it is, and it's like, here's the new chili recipe. Awesome, whatever, right? I mean, it's a touch. But in the, like Gary said, what if you created a homeowner's manual? What size is the filter? How often do you change the filter? What do you do for the smart home stuff? You know, what is the actual siding? Like all of the things. And you handed that to your seller when you were like putting it in an open house. That now goes to the buyer who you may or may not have represented, right? You're all over that book. Who do you think's gonna list that house? You are one day, because you know everything about the house. Working with a buyer, you send the questionnaire to the seller's agent, have them fill all that stuff out. You create that packet for them. You could be doing this while you're at the inspection with them, right? Because what does an inspector do? He shows all that stuff. He talks about all of it. You create that same thing and you give that to them at closing. How many times do they call up and they're like, this isn't working? And you're like, have you thought about changing the filter? They don't know, right? Or half the time they don't clean out their sewer line until there's a backup. That's genius. That's part of our value, right? Is we should know those things about home. Would you agree?
We also put a lot of vendors in there.
That too, right? Or who do I call for this? Or who do I call for XYZ? I mean, there's so much room for added value that we currently, I shouldn't say we, I know I did not do it as an agent, and I know that there's other agents that are not doing that, right? But this is where you are so lucky to see opportunity out there. And I think this is just one large case of opportunity in multiple different ways. Connecting with people, giving more value, figuring out your own value, and actually enjoying what you're doing. I said, I don't know if it was Heather or just the group this morning, but I was like, I didn't necessarily love selling houses after a while, right? And I said, yesterday, I was like, man, I would really like to provide this value again to people. Like it got, don't worry, I'm not selling houses again. But it got me excited in that way that like, this is the opportunity that you all should have been waiting for, is to show how great you are as an agent. Because the last 3 years, some of the stuff you did didn't even really matter because everything moved so fast and you could go through your licensing and you could talk about a house and someone's like, can you sell me one? Be excited. Be super excited. What are your thoughts? Either you're not excited and you're all looking at me like she is absolutely crazy, or you're like, oh, I could take some of this in.
I agree. The class is really good and it was a lot of refreshing, but it really made you like, I kind of left excited too. Like, oh man, there's so many things you can do to add more value. So if you haven't taken the class, take it, for sure.
Offered once, 2 more times at least.
Yeah.
And it's where I think it's recorded. I mean, you can go back and
Seen the
look at that.
recording when I was looking for it, but maybe there is, but I know it's being offered up more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it again because I was admittedly multitasking while I was doing it, but I still got a lot of good information.
Sorry.
And the other good thing I pulled from it about the, you know, the trust circle they have, one thing that, I don't know if they mentioned it or if it just came to mind, but as they were talking about it, but every client of yours that's on your docket of, you know, thinking about selling or buying in the next year is listening and hearing their real estate stuff because their mind's in that mindset. So it's like, if you're thinking about buying a red car and you start seeing red cars everywhere, they're listening. And so instead of not being in, you know, talking about it, I'd reach out to those clients and just say, hey, once if you have any questions about this, how's this going to impact you, and walk them through, you know, process as a seller or buyer, how this is not really going to affect them and what it's all about. So.
Well, it's the transparency piece. Yeah, the reason this whole thing happened is because of transparency. So don't hide from it. Have the conversation. Being transparent is only going to benefit you in the end. That's in anything. I mean, that's not just in business. That's in any relationship conversation you have. Transparency is going to benefit you.
And when you have the conversation with them and you tell them about it, they, it's like, okay, all right, so how are we gonna sell the house? They move on.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was interesting when Gary's like, so when you go into the doctor's office, right? Are you like, well, here's the deal, I'm only paying X for this X-ray. Nobody does that. Nobody does that, right? And half the time, I don't know what it's gonna cost until I get a gigantic bill afterwards and the insurance has already looked at it, right? So it just so happens we now get to share, this is our value and this is what you're paying for the value, right? And they get to decide. And you don't have to work with everybody. So if they don't see that value and they don't want to pay that, go find another client. Anything else? Rick?
I said this for a couple of years that, one of the things we bring into the listing agreements is that good agents attract good buyers. And I'll just give you a quick example of how important that is. I sold a house a couple of weeks ago and on day one, we went into multiples and it was listed at 600. So we had an offer at 600, 625 and 650. And they accepted the 650. Since that time, the transaction has fallen through because of the buyer's agent at 650. And buyer number 2 was my buyer. They bought a different house, and buyer number 1 bought a different house in a different community. So the house is now back on the market, and we've had like 2 showings in 2 weeks. So the reality is that every single transaction, if you don't have a good buyer's agent who has a good buyer, the deal may not work. And that is so significant to the seller because now things like in that particular case change dramatically from a price standpoint. You can't do it again. You can't start over and get multiple offers again and make the whole entire process work. So it's just so incredibly important to make sure that we're representing to our sellers that it's very important to have good buyer's agents on the other side because we're only half of it. You know, the buyer that's coming is going to be represented by somebody. That's the other half. I can do everything within my power, having as much experience as I have to control a situation until it's in the hands of the buyer's agent. So it's very, very important that they're compensated and that they're good.
Any other thoughts on that?
How do you help the seller vet those people?
Well, one of the things is if you don't know who the agent is, you can ask other people. I mean, we do, it's super easy to look up what their production is also just to have an idea. If it's somebody who's new in the business and just prepare yourself the best you can. And especially if it's somebody that you don't know, that you haven't worked with in the past.
Well, you called up people, I mean, when you've worked with agents and you say, hey, what do you know about this person? Or like, what is their track record? Or, you know, I mean, it's
Call an
just like
agent.
anything. It's like a referral, right? Like,
Call an agent that they just did a deal with.
yeah, I mean, it's like when people ask like, hey, you know this agent, is this a great agent to work with? Same thing, right? Agent to agent of, you just worked with this agent, how did the transaction go? How was communication? And it doesn't just go to our clients, right? It's really between agents as well. Is what does it look like to communicate with another agent? We've all been in those situations where you take on the emotion and then you and the other agent all of a sudden are, I'm like, neither one of you are selling your house or buying this house. Right? So that's important. It's important how you also show value to that other agent and what the communication looks like.
It's interesting, obviously, once upon a time we talked about, you know, clients writing love letters with this, with what you're talking about. I mean, there's almost a case for, as an agent, sending a little bio of yourself along with the offer. Like,
That's a great point of like who you are as an
Well,
agent
explain.
versus as a buyer, right? Or as this, like,
so
hey, this is what I've done in the last whatever, this, like, that's a great idea.
100% of my transactions on time,
Yep.
kind of like the banks, the mortgage people used to, you know, talk about percent, you know, percent closing on time, things like that. Well, that's huge. I mean, obviously inspecting multiple other
That's
situations.
a wonderful idea to do.
Along those lines, you
Yes.
know,
That's God.
on those lines, we just had one a couple of days ago where we got them to take it off the market. It's Sherry's client. She's on vacation. And we got them to take it off the market by writing a strong offer and including more than that. It wasn't about me as much as it was also about our inspector we worked with, and we've done over 200 inspections with this inspector and one transaction canceled as a result. And the lender, you know, over 300 transactions with the lender, and they've closed 296 of them on the closing date. You know, once you get, even if you've got a 10, it's better than not saying nothing, right? Because I will tell you, here's the key, and I don't want anyone in this room to ever say what I'm about to repeat as a realtor.
Well,
So-
it's recorded.
No, this is good. No, this is,
I'm like-
it's appropriate, but this is just it's just a matter of principle. I knew that things weren't gonna work out in the transaction when the other realtor at kind of towards the end, when we had it all worked out, when she said, oh yeah, I've got another one of my transactions falling through. And I said, is a buyer listing? She said, it's a listing. And here's what she said. She said, it happens. Well, it doesn't happen. These transactions do not fail. Transactions do not cancel. So it's our job and our responsibility to make sure that we find solutions so that transactions don't cancel, that they don't fail. You know, so having that mindset that, oh, it happens. I'm like, I look back, the last transaction we had canceled was 6 years ago. 6 years. You know, and I don't know, figure out how many transactions that is. That's a lot, you know, so the point is that.
I like how you weren't sure how many transactions that were. We're focused on units now.
Yeah, thanks.
We have a letter we include with all our offers that says why to accept an offer from our team. And we can share that with Lydia
Yeah.
if anyone wants to copy
I
that.
love that. All right, I am going to, I know I don't want to cut this discussion off, but, we have some super exciting news, to announce. I know that the email probably just hit your inbox right now. But we, actually get the opportunity that we are having a change in some leadership, at our market center. And it's a change in regards to our operating principal. So our new operating principal is going to be John Butler, that many of you know. He's on the screen.
That's the old guy with the ponytail.
I love the ponytail, John.
I know.
So,
Once in a while.
so number one, he's going to be our operating principal. So with that change, we have been a part of a group called The Collective, for some time now. That particular group is not going to be existing. We're kind of all dissolving that portion of it. And the Minneapolis Lakes office is also getting a new operating principal. And then Jake Moores is going to be the operating principal of the Edina Market Center and the Elk River Market Center. In regards to the general manager, since we are no longer having all 4 offices, Jen Briggs is going to be doing a venture on her own, outside of real estate, or at least outside of KW. So with that, I'd love for John, I know many of you know him, but maybe he could share a little bit about himself for those that do not know him.
I'm old.
John.
Actually, I've been involved with Keller for 20 years and, helped start all 4 of the offices that were in the collective group. I think those of you been around more than a year remember that was called the Butler Group. And still am involved in each one of those market centers too, but I stepped down a year or so ago and Jake took over. And when he realized he just had way too much on his plate, I mean, he's a lot younger than me. He's got young kids. It's a lot different than the way I was running things. So I totally understood what he was going through. And I don't want to say I was bored, but that's the easiest thing to say. And he said, I want to give up 2 of the market centers. And I said, well, how about I take Lake Minnetonka back? I love it there. And look forward to those of you that don't know me. I look forward to meeting you, and those that do know me, I know you'll avoid me like crazy. So, but I look forward to getting back with each one of you too. you know, my goal at every market center that I've been involved with is to make it the best market center in the marketplace. And I intend on doing that here. We've got a great leadership group. We've got unbelievable agents. And our number one goal is to help each one of you build your business to the whatever level you want to be at. And if you're those of you that are taking advantage of all of the things that Keller offers, know that that can happen. So, you know, I've seen a lot of growth in many agents there and just love to see more of that. So that's about it. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me or.
Anybody have any questions for John? Well,
Hopefully not. I probably won't be able to answer them anyway, so.
I'm super excited, and I think that it's, you know, John and I talked about what it looks like in the future for us. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to email us, call us, and otherwise it's onward.
Cool.
Exciting. Jonathan.
Did somebody ask a question?
Nope, nobody asked a question, John.
No, I thought you were getting rid of the ponytail after the pandemic and it's still here.
No, that'll never, well, I said till COVID's gone, they keep talking about it. I don't know what it is, but I guess I can't. And I'm so used to getting up and putting my ponytail in a braid and away I go. So
Oh, John.
I at least feel like I have a decent head of hair.
You know what we're saying, there's too many people.
It's going, you know, all the time.
You
So.
don't look like Steven Seagal with his pony.
Too many people have done that.
Not Willie Nelson.
No.
That's right, no.
All right, let's move on to wants and needs.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
You bet, thank you all.
What do we got? Buyer needs, new listings.
I have a buyer coming in from North Carolina. I sent something out to you guys, but they're up to looking for 700,000, at least 2,800 square feet, minimum 4-bed, 3-bath, 2+ garage. And kind of anything from Eden Prairie out to, now they've decided to include Chaska and Chanhassen, all the way up to Elk River. So anything on that side that would match that. They'd like a bigger lot, at least like half an acre. And there just isn't a ton out there in MLS. I have 2 separate searches set up for them. And I think both searches total about 12 properties right now. So, and we have a total of like 6 that they put hearts right. So, yeah. So if you have anything that would be helpful, please and thank you.
Awesome. What else?
Well, I hope so.
Are we gonna do a deal? Like, I want to know. Maybe we're gonna talk and get back.
All right, I've got a off-market, listing, right down the road, right behind Best Buy over here. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, very contemporary, about 3,000 finished square feet. It's a 3-car garage, very wooded lot, and, they want to sell it before, they don't really want to go on the market. She's got a very strong, decor, style. And it would require.
I like that. Very strong decor style. I love that. GPT that.
Anyway, it's a really, it's a good opportunity for somebody to, buy the property. It does need exterior painting and a driveway that's in rough shape.
Is it free? Do you have a price?
Oh, yeah, I like to told Wendy yesterday, I am paying out 2.7%. But what do you say? What do you mean free?
Price, how much is it?
Oh, $725. And there's a decent comp that's a baseball throwaway, that same style up on a hill that an investor bought for 700 a year and a half ago and sold for 1.1. That one's a little bit bigger than ours, but so I think with a little tuning up, this one is a 9.
Maybe if it was not as strong decor.
Strong decor, yeah.
What else?
I have a buyer that her temporary rental is done in June. She's urgent. Her preferred Dinah, she's willing to do a lot of work, anything but minimum 3 2. She does have 3 teenagers, but
Up to 700, but if it needs work, like to say more, 550. But if you know anything, she's open to like some Hinton Park, some Hopkins. Her kids are.
We got you.
We have a listing coming on next week in Greenfield for 900,000, 6 beds, 5 baths, around 3,800 square feet, 3.8 acres, so just right under 4. Does have a dog washing station.
Perfect.
And it has a workshop as well. So yeah, that'll be on next week.
Awesome.
Of a listing, go on the market next week. It's in Mayor, which is just a short drive west of the 20. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. It's about 1,800 square feet. It's in a nice newer neighborhood. Nice fence back there. Very clean home. Low 330s, so family starter probably. Then also a buyer need out in the Hugo area, up to 425. 3 bedrooms can start there.
Awesome. And, oh, go ahead.
Buyer need Eden Prairie detached townhome, up to like $1 million.
Okay.
Nice.
And as always, I'll go to, it's always after the meeting, send your buyer needs and your coming soons, your new listings to Lydia, so that we can get those out at the end of the day in an email to everybody. Yeah.
In a tear down Minnetonka schools, flat lot, ideally 500,000 under.
Awesome. All right, you guys go have an awesome day. We have a training right after this, so if you want to learn a little bit more about that, stay put. Have a good one.